Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. We are just going to give some other folks a few minutes to join in, and then we'll get going. All right, it's 3:01, everyone. So we'll get going with our webinar for today. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the Green Cell Monthly webinar. Today, what we are going to look at is some really good tips and tricks related with recycling, reusing, rethinking our ways of working when it comes to how we can incorporate sustainable ways of living in our day-to-day activities and our day-to-day lives. Our guest speaker, Vijay Desai, he knows a lot about these topics, and he's going to share some good tips and tricks, as well as some more in-depth insight around how we can avoid waste going into our landfills, how we can recycle better, and really eventually help the environment and the planet that we live on. At the end of the seminar, I think what you're going to come away from is some good actionable steps that you can take right away after this presentation is done, where you can say, hey, here is some easy things I can do even as early as today, and start implementing those to reduce our environmental impact footprint. Okay. I'm going to be your host for the meeting today. So I'll be moderating any questions that come in through our Zoom chat. Quick introduction about myself. I'm Rohan Gawande. I'm a supply chain professional. For the last 6-7 years of my career, I worked in the food industry. So having worked in the food industry, I can attest to some things and some projects I myself have been involved with, where we look at reducing food waste, reducing water consumption in our manufacturing plants. Those are good things that have really garnered a lot of attention and have also created a lot of focus, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. There is other things too that the food industry is doing in terms of finding sustainable packaging, also working with growers and producers to make sure that the raw materials that we procure are getting found in sustainable ways. Having said that, there is a lot of work that still needs to be done, not within the food industry, but all the different industries that we are associated with. And all of us have to collectively come together and make change for the better. My personal journey with Green Cell started only about 2 months ago, 2-3 months ago. I was able to witness one of their presentations at a community event, and I was really impressed with how they had put together a easy to relate framework when it comes to what are the things I can be doing in my day-to-day life that takes care of the environment, makes things better for the future generations. So there is that aspect of work where we are involved with sustainable in terms of sustainable initiatives, and then there is also things on the personal front that we could all be doing. And I was able to relate to the initiatives that Green Cell was doing. That's how I became a volunteer, and I'm looking forward to being involved in many different projects with the team here. So we are going to take a short pause here and take a look at a video. Okay, I'm going to play the video and I'm going to pause for a second. If somebody can just give me a thumbs up sign saying that the sound is coming through, then we'll continue with the rest of the video. Is the sound come through, team?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you. Okay. All right, team. Now we'll get through the rest of the information we want to share today. But I think that's a nice summary of what Green Cell is about and how we are making an impact. So at the heart of it, I know for our presentation today, there is probably some people who are already familiar with Green Cell, and we appreciate your support that you have provided us. For those of you who are getting introduced to Green Cell for the first time, in a sense, Green Cell, is a volunteer-run nonprofit organization. We are passionate about raising awareness about environmental issues and promoting sustainable solutions. There is a lot that can be done within the community by all of us getting together and sharing information, creating awareness around the issues that are facing us, as well as building for a better future for the future generations. So in short, the aim for Green Cell is to help everybody go green by sharing information within the community and sharing best practices and volunteering. Okay. So typically we are doing monthly webinars. They usually happen on the second Sunday of the month. Here is some information about previous webinars that the team has done. They are related with a wide variety of topics: composting, rainwater harvesting, solar energy, inventing in sustainable future. That one was quite interesting when I checked it out recently. Amongst it's some new things that I was introduced to that I never thought about in the past. Diversity in your garden, grow on and grow forth. How can you nurture soil and plants? How can you plan for diversity and variety within your garden? So all these things are, they impact our day-to-day lives. And there is a lot of great information and tips about how we can incorporate some things from these webinars. These are also posted on our YouTube channel. So please do check them out for the topics that interest you. And we are also happy to answer any follow-up questions as well. I'm going to turn it over shortly to Vijay here, who's our expert and who will guide us through some strong, solid information today when it comes to recycling, reusing. Just some overall housekeeping rules as we work through the rest of the presentation today. We are going to have all the attendees on mute just so that we can hear the speaker clearly. If you have any questions during the presentation, please do type them in our Zoom chat or even on the YouTube chat, and we'll make sure we address them towards the end of the presentation. While you guys type up the questions, there are some of us who are monitoring those questions. If that information is already getting covered through the videos that Vijay will share or the slides that he's going to share, then we won't explicitly ask them again. But if there is some stuff that was not a part of the content towards the end of the discussion today, we'll go through those questions and have Vijay and the team reply back to those. After the session ends, if you do have any other follow-up questions, you want to know more about other topics that you cannot find easily on the website, please do not hesitate to email us at greencellatl@gmail.com. That's our official email address, and we'll be happy to respond back to any queries that you have. Okay. All right. As I mentioned earlier, Vijay Desai is our expert guest speaker. It's really logical and practical when it comes to the tips and the information that he's going to be sharing with us as far as taking care of the environment. How can we reuse better? How can we recycle better? What are how do we minimize our environmental footprint? Vijay leads his employer's Green Cell team in Atlanta, contributing to local conservation efforts as well. He's heavily involved in Green Cell's food rescue program. We will talk about that in some future slides here. He also volunteers with AARP for helping people prepare their taxes. So very much involved within the community and making an impact there. So it's great to have him on there. And Vijay, thank you for making time for putting together the material that you put together for us today. And we all are looking forward to seeing what you have to share.
Thanks, Ron. Let me, hey everybody, this is Vijay Desai. I am, as you can see, been involved in Green Cell activities for, I want to say about 2+ years now, maybe almost 3 years. It's been a while. And I'm also involved in my employer Workday's sustainability efforts locally here. So I'll go over this deck. This deck is publicly available. You'll get the link to it, and I keep maintaining it. So this deck is going to have most current information. So if you find something that is incorrect based on your experience, please let me know and I'll update it. And this happens. Recycling, as you will see through the deck, is a very local activity. Depending on where you live, even within Metro Atlanta, things, you have different options available, and they keep changing. So this is a living document that I tried to maintain for all of us in the Metro Atlanta area. But a lot of these things can also be applied to other parts of the country. So if you're joining from somewhere outside Atlanta, not everything will apply directly to you, but you will be able to leverage some of it. So it's a pretty extensive deck with a lot of details. I will try to go as fast as slow as you would like. So if there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand and or type them in, and we will address those at the end. So let's get started. So this is mainly about my own experience, my own journey of last 2.5, 3 years of trying to recycle better. And what prompted me to do this was just this thought that the amount of trash that all of us generate in our lifespan is a mountain. You can see it's 600 billion tons of trash that is probably going to get generated, or has already been generated. And I probably, given I'm 53 years old, so I probably have already contributed a whole lot of trash. So I'm trying to do what I can to reduce my trash carbon footprint here. So I am going to stop my video so it's not distracting, and I will keep going with the deck here. So over 3 months or so, I mean, it wasn't very difficult once you put your mind to it. We used to literally family of four. This was during COVID times. I've grown kids, college and working adult, and they, all four of us in our house produced probably 3-4 times. I would change this trash bag, and now we are down to this little trash can which barely gets full on a weekly basis. So, and that took us about 2-3 months of learning and a bit of a discipline. So it is possible. I've done it, and it's not that complicated once you decide to put a little bit of time and energy into it. So how did we do it? So let's start looking at that. At the crux of the issue, it's an economic problem. Recycling is. You have to think about the cost of recycling. For any material to be worth recycling or worth to be recycled, the cost of moving that material and cost of processing it has to be less than the resulting value. So what we can do is try to reduce the left-hand side of this equation here by pre-sorting, by moving materials ourselves to certain specialized facilities that you will see in my deck. And then that is what makes the material more recyclable. Until better technology comes where you can just put everything in one trash bin and everything gets sorted and recycled magically, but we're not there yet. So that's sort of the guiding principle here, that try to do what you can to reduce the cost of recycling so materials can be recycled. There are largely 4 different kinds of materials that we will cover today: paper, glass, plastic, metal, and then composite of all these different materials, which is where things get hard. And then organic, I'll touch briefly on organic, which is a lot of you might know as composting. I'll talk briefly about that. That is not the primary topic of discussion today, but without composting, without organic recycling, it is very difficult to get to where we got. So it needs to be part of your effort, not just recycling, but also composting. So I'll come back to this anchor slide throughout the presentation, but what I have learned is there are different kinds of options available, different kinds of materials and different options available to most of us. And that's what you see in this stepping stones here. They go from easiest and zero cost or no cost or included cost to more expensive and somewhere in between. Those are the different steps that we will go through today. And you can decide to what level you want to interact, right? You don't have to do all these steps, but that is kind of what the plan here is. And like I said, this deck is available, so you can always start at one and then go to the next step and so on and so forth by using this deck. So let's talk about curbside recycling. Everybody generally has access to curbside recycling, except unless you're in an apartment or something that does not have curbside recycling. But for most housing communities in the US, you have access to curbside recycling. They do accept fair amount of materials in what is called a single stream recycling, which is you put everything in one box, right? One bucket. And the challenge with that is that as a result of that, because of that method, you have a high probability of your materials getting contaminated, or you contaminating other people's effort, because ultimately everything gets into the same van or truck that goes through your neighborhood. So it's important for us to be careful in what we are putting in the curbside bin, and only put those things which are accepted in your curbside bin. And what gets accepted in I live in the city of Alpharetta, and what gets accepted in my curbside bin is going to be different from what gets accepted in your curbside bin. So I have covered what I know, but you should always check your local program. So for example, when you're tossing your can of your soda or beer, please make sure you empty it and clean it and make it as dry as you can. Doesn't have to be super dry, but the drier the better. And no scrap metal. People think, well, I'm dropping aluminum cans, so why can't I drop hangers and other things, pots and pans and stuff like that. The facility where these curbside cans are taken does not have the ability to sort through that kind of material. On the other end of the spectrum, anything smaller than 3 inches is also going to not be able to recycle in those facilities. So if you're going to recycle aluminum foil, you can keep collecting and make a large ball and then toss that once in a while, rather than keeping small pieces into the bin. Moving on to cardboard and paper, again, typical curbside bins will accept cardboard and paper, but you don't want to put your paper towels and Kleenex and things like that. Those are not something that the facilities can recycle. Anything that is a paper with glitter, glue, that kind of paper, or even shredded paper. People think that it's paper, right? But that will get jammed in the facilities machinery and generally are not accepted. Hardcover books are other things that are not accepted. So things like that. So you can come back to this slide when you're checking whether something is accepted in your curbside bin or not. Pizza boxes. So this is one of the things I mentioned, that things keep changing. There was times when pizza boxes were not accepted curbside, but now the technology has progressed where you can toss reasonably clean pizza boxes. So if it's super soiled, then you can cut the soil part and put the rest of the pizza box into the bin. But if it is too much soil, then you can toss it away. But or you should toss it, or you should trash it. But if it's a typical pizza with a little bit of stains, that's okay. They can sort that out these days. And then for me, even the cartons that, so like your chicken broth or your juice cartons, they are accepted in my curbside bin. So check your local facility, as your facility may not be able to accept that. So this is what I was talking about. And ice cream cartons are not accepted, even though they're, what's the difference between one carton and the other? And there are, from a technology perspective or material perspective, what goes in those cartons. So there is a different way to recycle ice cream cartons in Atlanta. And what I have listed here as CHARM, Center for Hard to Recycle Materials. And I will cover that later in the deck. Okay, glass is generally very easy to recycle. Unfortunately, it is disappearing from our neighborhood. So my curbside bin a few years back used to accept glass. Then they started having a separate container for the Alpharetta city residents to put their glass in, and now that stopped. So now what I do, and most of us do, is to collect our glass and take it to your city or your county will have a glass drop-off location. So you can check that with your city or county's website, and you can take your glass there. In Alpharetta, there is a location near to the one of the city parks, and same in Milton and same in Johns Creek in the North Fulton area. And the South Forsyth area, there is recycling. The county recycling centers will accept glass. So those are some of the options that you have. Again, not all glass is same. So your flat glass, as it is called, the mirrors and window panes, or your bakeware, those are not accepted curbside. There is usually not much option there. CHARM will take some of it, and we'll talk about that. But most of the time, those type of items need to be trashed. And what happens is, if you end up putting some of these items in curbside, it may be okay, and they'll sort it and trash it, but not always. So it's better to put what you correctly for first time, rather than hoping that, oh, I'll just put it in there and it'll get recycled, what we call wish cycling. You generally don't want to do that. So all right, moving on. Now, plastic, and we'll cover plastic in more detail, but plastic is one of the hardest materials to recycle. And as a matter of fact, most of the plastic ends up, even though you might be putting it in your recycling bin or taking it to specialized recycling facilities, most of the plastic ends up in trash and eventually in our waterways and our water streams, and contaminates and affects a lot of life forms besides us. So it's better to avoid plastic as much as you can. Unfortunately, we live in a world full of plastic, so it's not that practical. So from a curbside plastic recycling perspective, most curbside programs will only accept plastic one and two, and even in that, only bottles, usually containers. So if you have a plastic film, which is a plastic number one, that's not something you want to put in your curbside bin. For example, your plastic grocery bags, you don't want to put those in your curbside bin because that will jam the machinery uh, in the facilities, and it will actually cause more damage than good. The other and the reason why this one and two is more widely accepted is, again, the reason is economics, because that material is much cheaper to recycle and has more demand. So therefore it's economically viable to recycle one and two. The rest of the plastics that you see on the right side are not easily recyclable. So you have to take them to specialized facilities like this Center for Hard to Recycle Materials, and we'll go over that. Also, a lot of this plastic will come in, it will be in a form of a complex product. So like, for example, you see here a soap bottle with a pump. That pump may or may not be of the same kind of plastic that the bottle is. And it will have additional, so in this particular case, there is a metal spring in it. So if you put this plastic bottle as is into your curbside container, the pump is likely going to get trash, and or it might even contaminate the stream even more. So better not to put the pump, put the clean plastic bottle. And there are ways to clean, and I've got a video on how to clean some of these things without wasting too much time or water. You'll see a link to that video in this deck, and you can take a look at that later. But this is what I typically do, especially with hard to clean materials. Like I think this was either a conditioner or a lotion, and so you can't really clean it without cutting it up. But I'll cut it so that it's not completely destroyed. It's to put together, and then always keep the bottle cap back on top of the bottle. You don't want the caps separate; they will get lost. So better if you're recycling your milk jugs, leave the bottles, the caps on. Don't remove the caps. All right, so this is pretty much what we covered. So you can see a lot of stuff can be recycled curbside, but there are restrictions. So in order to get to a zero waste lifestyle, or near zero waste, as I like to say, because you can never be zero waste, there is more stuff that needs to be done, though it does not take that much time. You just have to be aware of what goes where. So now, one last thing, I think, on the recycling, couple of slides before we curbside recycling, before we move to the next step of the ladder. So you definitely don't want to bag your recyclables. They need to be clean like this and separate by themselves, not in a trash bag. And I see this quite often when I'm going on a walk in my neighborhood, that people will bag their recyclables in a plastic bag, and that will the same reason why you don't want to have your plastic grocery bags in curbside bins is because it will jam the machinery on the other end that's going to be used for sorting all these different materials. You can't really sort them if they're bagged, and there's nobody there, no person to pull it out of the bag. It's all generally mechanized, so better to leave them separate than bag them like this picture here. So moving on to the next slide, next step here in this ladder of recycling options. Grocery stores are nowadays accepting some materials, and so what can we do there? So what I personally do is, these are screenshots from the Publix and Kroger recycling bins, and I will follow that. So anything that has a store drop off in your plastic, like your store plastic bags, again, avoid them if you can, and I'll talk about that in Rethink portion of the deck today, but carry your own grocery bags. But you will still end up with some grocery bags and other kinds of plastic, like your Amazon Prime packages, which these days have this store drop off label on it. So those you can drop off in your grocery store bin. I collect them in a container that you see here. I just keep collecting once the box is full. Then every few months, it takes me several weeks to months to actually fill this up. Then I just go to the Publix and drop it off. So I'm not making a trip, but whenever I'm there, I can drop it off. Styrofoam containers is another thing that they have started accepting. So if you are getting some styrofoam containers from your takeout products, what we do is as soon as we bring them home, we will transfer them to a Tupperware or something that we're going to reuse. That way, the styrofoam container is not unnecessarily getting spoiled, getting stained more than it needs to be. And then clean it up and then store it. And again, I keep storing my egg cartons and styrofoam cups as much as I can. And then once in a while, I'll make a trip to Publix and drop them off. Sorry, I just see a few more folks joining, so I'm going to admit them, and we can keep moving. So that's in the grocery stores. Some of the grocery stores also accept glass and plastic in the same bin. That is generally avoidable. So one of the lessons learned I have is to avoid single stream recycling as much as possible, to avoid any contamination and to make sure my material gets recycled and not get trashed. So I don't use the glass and plastic combined recycling bins that are outside Target. I believe there is one of the stores that has those. I don't use those. I keep my plastic separate from my glass, and I will make a separate trip for the glass drop off where the city provides that facility for me. So this next item here, the Center for Hard to Recycle Material, that is a big part of going trash free or waste free in Atlanta. So let's talk about that. So they are near the GSU stadium, what used to be the old baseball stadium, Turner Field. So it is in downtown. It's not super convenient for, especially if you're living out in the suburbs. But a lot of you do commute for a job, right? So if you think of it this way, and if you just keep collecting material, I do this maybe every 3-4 months. So I'm not going there every week. If you have sufficient space and you sort things and clean them and keep them correctly, then you can go maybe 3 or 4 times a year. And what I do to make my carbon footprint worthwhile is I have also started collecting from my neighbors. So not only I'm taking my stuff, but I'm also taking their stuff. So now all of a sudden that trip down is worthwhile, and they are open on Saturday. So you just have to book in advance and go down there on Saturday. And they really take a lot of materials. And this is back to that economics equation that you are pre-sorting and you're taking it there to their facility yourself. Hence, the recycling becomes economically viable. They also have partnered with vendors who guarantee recycling or some kind of repurposing, and I'll talk about that in a bit here. But things that you would generally not think of recycling, like your old clothes, socks with holes. It's like, well, nobody's going to use them. But what that can be done is you can shred them and use as insulation. So they partner with so some of you might be donating clothes to Goodwill or Salvation Army or somebody like that. And I'm not saying that those organizations are not good organizations. You just have to find out if what is their policy if they are not able to use those materials. And that's the one good thing about Charm is if you go to their website, you'll find more information about every partner that they have and what do they do with the materials that cannot be recycled. So what is it that they and so, sorry, one footnote here that counties like, even I live in Fulton. Fulton County has a drop-off location in Sandy Springs. Forsyth has a few, and but they don't take everything that Charm does. So you can always go to your county drop-offs to drop off some material that might be closer to you, and then keep collecting the more harder to recycle materials until you're ready to take them to Charm. So this is a map of the facility, how they're laid out, and you kind of make a giant loop and keep, go through their facility and drop off items. This keeps changing. So if somebody has made a recent trip to Charm and has any new information, please let me know and I'll update this slide. So, but as you can see, I mean, they're even accepting cigarette butts. I don't know who or why you would want to recycle, but they do accept a lot of stuff that you wouldn't otherwise think of recycling. Appliances is another thing. I've taken my old microwaves and things like that. I've taken all kinds of electronics. They will accept that. Styrofoam is a huge thing. That styrofoam is very hard to recycle curbside or any other program. So they will take all your packaging styrofoam. You bought a new TV, take the TV out, keep the styrofoam in the box, take it to them with the box, and they will take care of both the cardboard and the styrofoam as an example. So a lot of different stuff. So let's get into it. So what I do is I keep collecting all my plastics. So some of the plastic that cannot be recycled curbside, such as higher level plastic that we saw earlier. Remember, curbside will only take number one, number two plastic, usually bottles, and not any other kind of. So like these containers here that you see, your some you might you might know them as clamshells. Your egg cartons, which your plastic egg cartons, or your fruit boxes, your blueberries and strawberries and all those that come in, or salads, all those that come in these kinds of clamshells. They are number one plastic usually, but that is not something that you can recycle curbside. They just won't. It'll get trashed eventually. So that is something that your county recycling drop off usually accepts, or you can take it to Charm. These are some higher level plastics here, number 6, number 5. So that's the other thing that I do. I just run them through dishwasher, so nothing extraordinary effort there in most cases. And then just once they're clean, I just mark them with a number because I can't remember. I mean, these numbers are so tiny, I can't see them. So I will mark them with the Sharpie as and when, and I just keep collecting them. And then every now and then I will go sort them. So all 5s are in one box and all 6s are in one box. It doesn't take that long. And then every 3-4 months, I will collect all my material as well as material from my neighbors. So they'll come and drop off their 5s and their 6s, and I'll mix them with my 5s and my 6s, and I will take them all down to Charm. And when you go through this, you can see there's a whole section called Plastic Well. And in that area, they have different bins for different kinds of plastics, 1 through 4. And that's what you do. You just go and drop it off there. Unusable clothes. There is, that's my dog. They're licking the yogurt bowl. That's not good enough cleaning. You do need to run it through dishwasher. So yeah, so styrofoam like this, they will take flat glass. Remember, we earlier we talked about glass, and we said, the curbside will not, or drop-offs will not take flat glass. So Charm will take flat glass, but I don't believe they take mirrors. You can check their website for sure. Appliances, old coffee maker. This is a complex thing, right? Because it's got plastic, it's got electronics, it's got the glass jar. I just took the whole thing to Charm, and then they will sort it out. Different kinds of plastics. These hefty bags is next in our ladder there, so I'll talk about that in a bit. But they used to take that at Charm. They no longer take that at Charm. But there are other options for these hefty bags, so we'll talk about that. Some other stuff. So I take all the electrical, like you see some old switches here. My mouse died, so I was taking that. All that I will take to Charm. Bulbs you can recycle at Home Depot. Batteries are generally, you can recycle rechargeable batteries at Home Depot and other stores. any other non-rechargeable regular batteries, you can take them to Batteries Plus near you. So those are some of the things you just keep collecting, and every once in a while when you're out doing your shopping or whatever, you just drop it off. That's kind of what we do. All right, so the number 4 in our ladder here is this concept that Hefty has started, and I believe they have now changed, they've rebranded from Hefty Energy Bag to what they call Hefty Renew, because they are trying to do different things with the plastic. So they accept variety of different things in this orange bag that you can get in. You can get it in Kroger, you can get it in Target. It's usually there where you have other trash bags, so just look for it. And so there is a cost to it in the sense that you are buying some specific plastic bag. uh, the the only drop off for Hefty in Fulton County was Charm, but they don't take that anymore. So you have to find some friends in other counties. So in Cobb, you can, I believe, just leave it in your curbside and they will pick it up. And with Forsyth and Gwinnett, you can go to the county drop-off locations and drop them off. Um, Greensill is actually starting a program where we can collect some of these items that we will take down to Charm, and we will also collect these Hefty energy bags. So stay tuned for that. We are working on a project to get a location close to where most of us are in South Forsyth, North Fulton, to do this on a quarterly basis to collect all these materials. So what I do because I'm using a lot of the programs at Publix for dropping off, my egg cartons and to-go boxes and stuff like that, grocery bags, and I'm using Charm for specific plastic cups, plastic items. Whatever you see crossed out here, the rest of the stuff I put it into my Hefty bag. Uh, there is a difference between bags. So if you may have a plastic bag that has a plastic on the outside but a silver foil kind of thing on the inside. So for example, your potato chips bags or pretzel bags, pretzel bags are generally just pure plastic, but the chip bags on the other hand may have a silver foil. So those silver foil lined items do not go into the Hefty bag. Main reason is so there are different ways to recycle plastic, and Hefty, when the program was called Energy Bag, and even now I believe, is largely used to burn the plastic as a fuel or make it into like a wax kind of material, that candles, things like that. So eventually it is contributing to creating additional carbon in the environment. But it's somewhat better than going into landfill, because when they're burning it, usually in a cement factory, the burning is more controlled than it otherwise would be. They are working with other new technologies where they are, in some cases, they have some new technologies that are coming up where they take all this plastic, crush it, and make it into a like a brick, like your cinder blocks for construction. So that's pretty cool. And when that gets mainstream, then that hence the reason that the rebranding from Energy to Renew, where they are now able to use the material for other items, which will be useful for rest of the life cycle. And that's another thing that you can do personally, is use materials differently, and I'll talk about that after the recycling portion of the presentation. So that's about Hefty program that you can use. Moving on to sorry, so yeah, so when you're putting things into the Hefty bag, they need to be cleaned up. You don't need to use a lot of water or to spend a lot of time. What I do is I just cut up these plastic bags and just spray some surface cleaner and wipe it down, and that's it. It doesn't take that long to the materials doesn't need to be like the plastic bag doesn't need to be like a plastic bag. It's just going to become a piece of plastic, so that's okay. These other items that you see here, like the yogurt tops and stuff like that, or cheese wrappers, they are not going into the Hefty. They are going into a specialized program that I will talk about next here. So I keep collecting these plastic in this bin. I weigh it down so that I don't have to, I can minimize the number of times I need to make a trip. It takes me a few weeks to fill up a hefty bag. And then I work with some friends in Forsyth who drop it off for me at their recycling center. So again, so back to this, what is how come something is recyclable and something isn't, or where can it be recycled and all that. And you see this came from a slide deck that a company called TerraCycle, that is the next step in our ladder here that's coming up. So they are one of these specialized recycling programs who will recycle complex materials, and they are also partnering with a lot of the manufacturers. So you will see Kroger, for example, is working with them for Kroger branded products that you can drop them off with Kroger, and Kroger will send them to TerraCycle, and then they will recycle those in their specialized labs and facilities. Things like your and I'll talk about that. But these kinds of complex products, they are able to sort them and separate the complex materials and recycle them. The obviously there is cost to this, right? And that's the whole point of this economics example here, that this is not a free service for the most part. Somebody is paying for it. Either you're paying for it, or in case of partnership like Kroger is paying for it. And so there are several programs that that TerraCycle has. And this is one of the programs that is available to you as a consumer. So this is what I use as my TerraCycle recycle everything box. So if I'm not able to do, use these local resources, like for these silver foiled potato chip bags, or my yogurt container, or tubes of cosmetics or cosmetic brushes, things like that. Those are hard to recycle. They all go into this box, and this box is pretty tall. It's like 3+ foot tall. It is not cheap, but you can get it on discounts, typically around Earth Day or on Black Friday and things like that. It's about $200 on discounted. But it takes us, if you use all these other programs, for a family of 4, it takes us about 8 months to fill this box. And in that 8 months, I've collected about 28 pounds of trash that fits into this box, and it's prepaid UPS, so you just ship it back to them, and they sort it out and they recycle it. Or at least that's what I believe. Unfortunately, I've asked them, can you show me what exactly got recycled? And that is that's one issue I have with this program, is the somewhat lack of transparency, that they say, if you complied with what we asked, which I believe I do, then 97% of your materials are recycled. But they're not providing any kind of proof of recycling. So this is why I use other programs first. In addition, well, this plus the cost. So I use other programs first and use this as a essentially a last resort to for some of the things that I cannot recycle near my house. So in addition to this paid program that I am paying for, or you can pay for, there are manufacturer or grocery store based programs, like I mentioned, the Kroger one, right? So they also have this program where all your oral care products, your toothpaste, your toothbrushes, your flosses, all that kind of stuff. And this particular one with Oral-B is not just specific to their product, so you can put other products also. Again, you go there, you download a UPS label, you fill up this box, and you slap the label, send it back to them, and they will work with the manufacturer to get those recycled. There are other programs like this on their website. I last count, they had like 200 odd programs. So you can always look at those. Those are free programs, and for your brand of cosmetics or your brand of simple things like Solo cups. Like preferably, you don't want to use plastic cups, but if you happen to have them, you can send those back to TerraCycle, and they have a partnership with Solo, where they will recycle. Those are the red plastic cups that you typically see everywhere, right? So those the Solo company will take and recycle with their help. So there are a lot of programs like this on their website. Other options like DEA will take meds back. You don't want to put your expired or unused medicines into trash or down the toilet. They will get contaminate the water sources. So better to use the DEA's take back program and recycle them that way. All right, so we have gone up this ladder that I mentioned previously, and then for some of these specialized things I mentioned, there are either county recycling centers, or in some cases, like somebody was asking me about paint recycling, and they live in city of Milton. So Milton has once a year recycling for Milton residents. Alpharetta has every other, I think twice a year. So look in your city, county, website, and you'll find programs like that where you can drop off your paint or oils, chemicals, your things like that. And like I went over, there is always charm for some of these other things, even cooking and motor oil or appliances. Charm is a good source. Bulbs, you can go to Home Depot. Batteries, I mentioned Battery Plus. So things like the stores or places like that will take these items from you. All right, so use this as a cheat sheet, for your common items that gets that come through your household that you can recycle. This, like I said, this deck is publicly available. There's a video here linked to a YouTube video where you can see how you can sort and clean items quickly that I have put together. So after the go check it out. Last thing here, and I'll talk about this again, is there are websites. Actually, I'll hold that. There's another one, not just this one, where you can find additional information. So common things to avoid: curbside, especially curbside bins. Don't put styrofoam. Two items might be too small. No plastic bags. Don't bag recycle items. Try to clean them and dry them. Just follow this list. It's better to not put this stuff and contaminate the recycle stream and potentially damage the facilities equipment, especially with the plastic bags and things like that. Okay, so I talked about Charm. This is the recycling center for Fulton residents. This is for Forsyth. Some of these are, I mean, I hate to say this, but they're you go there and you make sure that you talk to somebody and make sure that the items are recycled properly. Sometimes if you leave it on the ground rather because the bin is full, it might get trashed. So just make sure that you're putting it in the right places when you go to these facilities. Couple of other resources. Earth 911 is a great resource if you can't figure out, and if you don't find it here, and I use this extensively also, or when I am confused or not sure where I can recycle something, or I don't know, I'll go to Earth 911 typically. Haven't used Recycle Nation that much, but it's there. But Earth 911, you put your zip code and you put your material that you're trying to recycle, and they'll generally tell you what options you have for recycling. So it's a very good resource to use. So that is the recycling portion of the presentation. But as I mentioned before, if we can avoid recycling material in the first place. Hey Rohan, can you guys still hear me? My Zoom is telling me my internet is unstable or something. Can you come off of mute?
It's cutting off a little bit.
Yeah.
Little bit,
Just raise your
Vijay.
hand.
Yeah, it stopped for like 20 seconds, Vijay, but now it seems like it's coming back on. but there is still a little bit of a lag we are experiencing in the
Okay.
last minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So let's move on to the next step here with the reuse. And what does that mean? So we went through in our journey of getting to zero trash through some of these decisions. So simple choices here: carry your water bottle with you, and avoid using plastic bottles, or your uh, uh, coffee mug instead of using styrofoam or plastic disposable cups there. Those are, and then plastic, instead of carry your own grocery bags to grocery stores rather than getting plastic bags. Sometimes I forget, everybody does. I just tell them don't bag it. I mean, it's in the cart. I just put back as you found in the cart. I will take the cart. I will put it in my car. I will bring home, and then I will load it in my bags to take them inside the house. So there are, even if you forget to carry your grocery bags, it doesn't mean that you have to accept the plastic bags that they're giving. So those are a couple of easy examples. The other thing that we do now is we hide our paper napkins, and you'll see tissues, things like that. They're there in case of emergency, but we just don't use them anymore. There is plenty of towels in the house that you can use for wiping down counters and things like that, or the materials that I was cleaning for recycling, and then they just go into the laundry, and that's it. We just literally just stopped using paper towels. There's just no need anymore. Same thing with Kleenex. I've got allergies. My son has allergies, constantly runny noses. We went back to the baby wipes that we used to use when the kids were babies, and I use them now, and we just don't use Kleenex anymore. These paper products are not recyclable because they are generally contaminated with bio waste and all that. So you have to trash them. Some of them can be composted if you think if you can, but again, depends on the chemicals that you're using to wipe down your counters, or the Kleenex will have some kind of plastic in it to make it strong. So these are generally not compostable or recyclable. So better to avoid them in the first place. Other simple little things. This, and the thing is, this has reduced our grocery bill also. And the water bill hasn't gone up that much. So it doesn't take that much additional water with today's, washing machines. But it will save you money by doing these things. We stopped using Swiffer pads. We just use a microfiber with a broom that works equally well, because the principle is same. I mean, these Swiffer pads, they're just using static electricity to catch the dust and other things off the floor. Well, you can do that yourself and not have to pay them. So this is reduced trash and saved some money there. Rohan talked about green cell, so I'm going to skip over this slide. But one of the things that is relevant to what green cell does when it comes to reuse is these utensils. So when you have a gathering at your house next time, you can text to green cell number there, and you can get these different kinds of utensils, including we not only have steel and the plastic there, reusable plastic, it's harder plastic that you can use for your picnics or whatever, but also we also have now china and other glassware, if you will, if you want to be a little bit formal in your gathering. So, and then there is water jugs and all those kinds of things that you can get for free, and clean them and return them to green cell at no cost to you. So that's another way you can reuse. So we have a couple of events. We have a Diwali event with 50 plus people at our home. I have a summer barbecue. Again, similar 50 plus people. I even do this at work because I'm a sustainability ambassador for my workplace. So when we have Diwali function at work, I have done that my work also, and a lot of us do, not just me, but a lot of our green cell volunteers do that, where even the work function with so many people can be done in a trash free way. So none of our functions at home are produce any trash anymore. So the last thing I have is Rethink, and then we can open up for any questions. So this is another simple concept. When you can buy onions in, without any kind of wrapping, buy those. Unfortunately, it's not always possible to have everything in a, there's too much packaging. Even the little stickers on the fruits, they drive me nuts. But there are options. So you can use those, like these onions. Um, the aerosol can be harder to recycle than the tub there. So this is kind of 50-50, because in both cases you'll likely have to take it to charm. So that this maybe. Um, the other thing is, if you have the option to have your yard waste collected, then in these paper bags, then use that option, because that will either get composted or it will go to a separate landfill, which is specifically meant for organic material. So it will get composted. And so I'm going to briefly digress here, because a lot of people ask me that, oh, I'm putting my organic stuff into trash bag and it goes in the landfill, it'll get composted there. It doesn't. The landfills are by design devoid of oxygen, and composting is a breaking down of material by natural processes, which requires oxygen. So the materials, your organic material, when it goes to landfill, it does not get composted. It breaks down in what is called anaerobic manner, where it converts to methane, which is even worse than carbon dioxide. So if you do one thing from this experience here, I would suggest figure out ways to compost. That actually will be a much larger benefit than the recycling, and it's a lot easier than you think. And I'll touch briefly about the composting in a minute here. So, but your yard waste, you can have, if you have that option. Not everybody does, but if you have that option, use these bags and separate your yard waste. Last thing is ask. You can ask Green Cell through our website. You can search Earth 911. So some of these things are complex, and I just keep collecting them until I figure out what can I do with it. And most of the time there is an answer. It's very rarely that I have to trash something these days. So organic recycling. So you can see here that in 1 week, if you just, this is my own house and we are about an average house. We don't cook a lot at home. If you cook a lot at home, you will actually have a lot more organic trash than we do. But you can see, just from a weight perspective, the 1 week of inorganic recyclables, your plastics and all that stuff, was like 53 ounces there, and versus 73 ounces with organic. And it's a lot easier because I'm not cleaning anything. All the stuff on the left, I had to go through kind of cleaning and sorting and all that. The organic stuff is just organic. I'm not sorting them, so a lot less time consuming in a way, and it will have bigger impact. And a lot of people associate composting with gardening. I'm not a gardener. I have so many allergies. I would rather not go outside. But you can still compost. And I had a webinar on this, which method of composting called Bokashi, which is indoor composting. It is very simple to do, and there is it's really not composting. It's anaerobic also, but it is a closed in a container in your house. It does not stink. It does not create any bugs or attract any creatures or anything like that. And at the end, you can then dispose it off safely in your garden because of this process. So, or you can drop it off at a composting facility, like Charm will take your compost material also. So there is a webinar that I did on this topic a while back. There is a recording of it. I encourage folks to watch that. And I believe with that, we are at the end of planned programming. Rohan, if you have any questions teed up.
No, thanks a lot, Vijay, for all the awesome content that you put together for us. a lot of practical tips and tricks, as well as some more detailed insights. So I think that was a wealth of knowledge in there.
Thank you. And yeah, like I said, I mean, this is a living document. So please, if there is anything wrong here or missing here, something that I don't, please reach out. I will maintain this document. And at the end of this, you'll get a link to this webinar, which has the link to this deck. You can always go back to it anytime.
Great. Okay. Let me just go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go through only two, there's only a couple of minutes. I want to take everybody's time talking about some current projects. And as soon as I'm done with that, then we'll open it up for some questions. We do have some questions collected here through the different chats, and then anything else that the team has, it's all up for grabs. Okay. Right. Can you guys see the slide deck again? I'm sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So if we look at some of the projects that GreenCell does, these are some of the higher impacting projects that I'm talking about here. The first one, which is quite popular in Fulton County, Forsyth County, and other parts as well, is ditching the disposables. So when you do have, when you're hosting a bigger event or a party at your house, we all, we would tend to gravitate towards using the disposable items. And as a solution to that, the team here came up with the idea of utensil loaning program. So this has been immensely popular in the area, and the estimates are so far the team had saved about 250,000 pieces of disposable plates, cups, and things of that nature going into landfill. Because now we have a utensil loaning program which can help you take care of those events when you have more than a handful of people coming over, and really minimize the impact that we have on the environment. There is a number that is listed on the slide deck here. So if you do want more information about that, how to get utensils from this program for any of your events that you're planning, please text to that number that is listed on the slide deck, and you'll get some more information on that. There is also a glass rescue program, as we call it, that some volunteers run here. And what it involves is we have a designated point of contact that works within the community, and that person will coordinate glass from that neighborhood or from the households that they're working with, and they will volunteer to pick up all that glass from that household, put it together, and then take it to the local recycle center. In the slides that we just shared, there was enough reference about the different choices you have, your local recycling centers. But then if we have a volunteer who picks up everything, it makes it easier on some individual households, and it creates a bigger impact. So through this program, there is tens and thousands of glass material that the team has recycled by taking it to the local recycle center. Another impactful program is the food rescue program. About 40,000 plus pounds of food was rescued through this program last year. And what it involves is we are looking for volunteers in this program who have a couple of hours every week to spare. And what they do is they'll go to, it really is a collection for bagels, for some vegetables, as well as for some dry food staples. So these volunteers will go to these facilities, pick up some unused vegetables or unused bagel bits or bagels, and they will take this product to a local food shelter. So there is, as we all know, there is plenty of, there are food shelters that will take this product and serve it for the underprivileged. And by just being able to dedicate a couple of hours a week, we have volunteers who will pick up these food products, take them to the local food shelter, and then through that it gets distributed to the needy or to the underprivileged. And that has also been a good success for us. Currently, this program is operating in Forsyth County, in Fulton County, I believe Cobb County, and Gwinnett as well. And we are looking for volunteers in East Cobb. So if there is anybody that is looking to help us start that program, that would be greatly appreciated. So you can reach out to us and we can help you get things coordinated and set up for East Cobb. All right. Some other, recent projects and initiatives that we get involved with. It's sometimes we'll do movie screenings. This is really to increase the awareness among the general population and in our communities about the, what lies ahead of us and the challenges we have to face in terms of climate change. The crises it can lead to, and what are the things that we really need to be thinking about when it comes to climate change. So as the slide says here, the science is clear, the future is not, and we try to create awareness with this within the communities, and that then gets the community more involved and plants the seeds for going green and thinking sustainable. We also help with green events. So if there is a community event or the summer, summer comes around and there are plenty of events that you're hosting in your neighborhood or any other associations that you're a part of, we can help coordinate a tent or a information booth in terms of promoting sustainable ways as well as green events. So if you do need any help or support coordinating such information, getting within your communities or whatever programs that you're involved with, we can certainly help with that. So you just have to email us at greencellatlanta@gmail.com, and somebody can reach out to you and help you get things set up and continue this awareness mission that we are on. All right. So I think that kind of wraps things up for us today. We'll open it up for questions. And before I get into the questions, Vijay, anything else you want to add for today?
No, this food rescue. So I'm heavily involved in food rescue, and we're always looking for people. So that's the only thing. I mean, we in my area in Alpharetta, we're picking up bagels from 3 or 4 bagel shops nearby. There are volunteers who bring bagels to my house. I've got a couple of freezers in my garage where they come and drop it off, and then I go drop it off with food banks, or there are other volunteers who come and take from my garage and deliver to food banks. It is incredible. I mean, this week I'm looking at the numbers and this week alone we rescued about in a minute here, we rescued 875 pounds of bagels from 4 bagel stores in or near my house. So you can imagine the impact that it has, right? And the advantage of food rescue is that it is not only it is obviously feeding people, right? So there is the social impact as well as environmental impact. Every time you divert a pound of food, it is taking out almost 4 pounds of CO2 from the environment. So it's a huge impact both socially and environmentally. So join us if you can in especially in food rescue.
Yep. Oh, those are some great call outs. Thanks, Vijay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the list of questions that we were able to put together through the registration process and what we got through the different chat forums. So I'll just go over a couple that are open, I would say. I think a lot of the questions when it comes to plastic grocery bags, recycling of smaller items, you covered it in the slide deck there, Vijay. So one of the things that I'm seeing here is option of getting rid of electronics that are not in working condition. So I do remember you kind of calling out batteries and unusable batteries. What about things like a laptop or a desktop, or what are the different choices we have for that?
Yeah, so for all of those, charm is the best option. So
Okay.
For batteries and bulbs and if you have one-off items, like you have one TV that's not working or one printer that's not working or something, you can look at Best Buy. I've done that. They don't want to get flooded with the items, but they will typically accept one of each time, each visit, something like that. That's what I've seen. And again, check the local listings, so to speak, because things change. I just collect and I just take everything to charm. And there is a whole, just like they have plastic, there's a whole electronic sorting thing station over there where you can drop off all kinds of things, including hair dryers and stuff like that that you would not normally think as in the appliances concept.
Got it. Okay. Um, there was a question around what are the options for getting renewable electricity from our utility company? Is there something?
Yeah, it's not related to recycling, but I can
Okay.
talk about it. So I just got solar panels installed on my house yesterday,
Okay.
as it happens. So or day before. So there is that. You can always look into that. And Green Cell actually partnered with a crowdsourcing organization, and there
Mhm.
was a project we did called Solarize Foresight, which really wasn't limited to Foresight. It was a 10-mile radius of coming, where we pre-negotiated a contract with a solar vendor. So the pricing was predetermined, and they went through the process of vendor selection and all that. So I didn't have to worry about any of that. And then the vendor takes care of working with your city and county and all that kind of stuff. So that is one option that you have. And if you are in a fortunate situation like me, I am zoned to Sony Electrical Company, and they do allow net metering. What that means is that if during the day I am producing more electricity from my panels than I use, then that is fed back into the grid. And at night, when I'm not producing any electricity and I'm drawing from the grid, it is so that they're keeping track of credits and debits. And at the end of the month, they will charge me only for the any excess electricity I used. If I produce more electricity than I use, then they will give me a money back, so to speak. It's not extensive, and so like if they're charging me 10 cents per kilowatt, then they'll only pay me like 2 cents per kilowatt. So it's not money making activity, but it does help out. So that's one option, putting on solar panels. Now, Sony also has a program where you can tell them that you want to buy sustainably produced electricity. So you can go on their website, and then up to a percentage of your electrical usage, they will guarantee that it comes from sustainable sources. So you have a couple of options available there. And this will vary by where you live and what company provides you with the electricity. So check local listings.
Great. No, great insight there. I wasn't sure how best to tackle that one, but as you kind of started talking about solar panels, I just thought about the previous house we lived in. I moved here to Georgia last year from Wisconsin, and even in Wisconsin, where we think that, it's always cold, or you don't get as much sun. In reality, is it might be cold, but we do get a decent amount of sun, or we did. And we had solar panels installed on our house, and the net effect it was we would sell the electricity back to the utility company, and then we would get a credit on the bill. And again, it's not money making by any means, but still, you're kind of electricity cost wise throughout the course of the year, you didn't have to pay anything. Now the break even on that was about still 6-7 years after you account for federal credits, but that's another good way of looking at it. Solar electricity generating and selling it back to the utility companies.
So one thing that I learned from a couple of folks who have gone through this in Green Cell is I always looked at it as a purely economic decision. And as you said, it's actually, especially here in Georgia, I think it's longer than 6-7 years, the break-even point after the after your federal credits. But there is another way to look at it, and that is you do kitchen remodeling, for example. You do bathroom remodeling. That money is essentially sunk into the cost, and you hope that whatever you're doing is going to increase the value of your house, because that's the latest thing, when you sell the house and so on and so forth, right? Well, it so happens that putting solar panels on your roof is increasing value of your house. The younger generation, especially, they are interested and they're looking at this. So there is a Zillow survey that Zillow did that points out that on an average, depending on which part of the country you live, your house might appreciate by 4 to 7%. So look at the house, your current valuation of the house. Do a conservative estimate of how much your house might appreciate, and then that's an immediate benefit, so to speak. You don't have to wait for a pure cost benefit based on savings in electricity.
Great. Yep. Sounds good. I do see one more question that popped up in the chat window here. I think the question is, do we recycle water bottles, milk
Yes,
cans with
yeah,
the
I see.
caps?
Yeah, yeah, I see that. Yes, so it is better to keep the caps on the bottles because if you separate them. So before I answer that, so a lot of times what happens is you look at the bottles, you look at the the milk carton is white and the bottle is pink or blue or whatever, and it looks different. But usually, in most cases, the bottles and the caps are made from the same kind of plastic. So the bottle will have a number, the cap doesn't. So you wonder, why is it the same kind of plastic? So usually it is. These days they will make the bottles with the same or the caps with the same kind of plastic. And it is better to leave the caps on because the again, the machinery over there is all, you got to remember, we live in a society where things are automated. So if things are too small, they will literally fall through cracks and they're not going to get recycled. So it's better to leave the caps on.
Okay, cool. Okay. Then the last question, really, that is a common thread to it here, is related with running some Going Green initiatives in your school and some volunteering service hours from high school. So for those, what we recommend, team, is reaching out to our email address, greencellatl@gmail.com, and we can have some specific folks who have experience setting up those programs in schools reach out to you and give you some detailed guidance on that. So if you can please reach out to us through our email link, that would be appreciated. Okay. We'll open it up for any other questions that people want to type in the chat, or if anybody wants to talk through them while we are on the call. We still have Vijay with us for another 9 minutes. So floor is yours, team. Okay, well, it sounds like we don't have any more questions. One request we do have from us is please take some time out of your day to fill out this 1-minute survey for feedback. We are always looking to figure out ways to get our messaging across to within our communities and within our friend circles. So we do have a short survey prepared here about today's presentation and overall information that was shared. So I'm sharing my link here on my screen. If you can take that survey and give us some feedback, that would be very much appreciated. Okay. All right. Latha, do you have any parting comments for the team?
No, I think this was very informational and a lot of good content. So we greatly appreciate everybody's time. You took the time to join us this afternoon. So please do see what all changes you can implement because these are simple changes that you can do it right away. So do reach out to us. We have our contact information here. So do send us an email or call us, and check out our Facebook and Instagram channels. And our YouTube has a lot of great content with a lot of videos that you might have missed that we've been doing. So do check that out. Vijay, this was fantastic, great presentation. We greatly appreciate everybody's time and effort here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. And again, this deck is publicly available, so please use that as you go on your journey. And if you see anything new or anything different, please reach out and let me know so I will maintain this.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your Sunday evening.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, bye.